Hey guys, I just finished recording the show about 5 minutes ago, but I saw we had some giant breaking news that I wanted to share with you. Justice Stephen Breyer has announced that he's retiring. Okay, that's a good thing. So Breyer is one of the left-leaning judges, and he's 83 years old. I believe he's had, I don't know if it was cancer or some other illness that, life-threatening. When you're 83 years old, you've had these issues. You're on borrowed time. You've already lived past what the average life expectancy is of a man in America. So with him retiring, that means Joe Biden will likely get to pick his whoever takes his place. And so it's a good thing, obviously, for the simple reason that if Breyer didn't retire and a Republican won the White House in 2024, which as of right now seems likely, then you would have a 7-2 conservative majority on the court, which is beyond devastating. Like, that is, would the left ever get to catch up in that circumstance and eventually shift the balance of power back? Not really, not unless you expand the court, which is a conversation people were already having, because as of right now, the conservative majority is 6-3. So with Breyer retiring, it's probably now going to remain 6-3, which is, it's good news, but it's the saddest good news imaginable, because it's yay, we're still down 6-3, hooray! Now, the other thing is, even though Democrats are weak and they're sad and they're pathetic, Mitch McConnell blew up the filibuster for Supreme Court nominations, so now you actually only need 51 votes to get somebody on the Supreme Court. So whoever Biden picks, as long as they can get 51 votes, then they can get on the court. And right now, Democrats have the 51 votes to get somebody on the court. Again, the only issue is going to be Manchin and Sinema. How conservative will they demand that the justice be? And the answer to that is, I don't know, because usually when you pick somebody for the Supreme Court and they have the hearings, usually they always play hide the ball with their true beliefs. They always do this soaring rhetoric about well, I believe we should view the Constitution as special and we should uphold the Constitution. We should follow it. This isn't about, they always say this isn't about how I feel about the issue. It's about what the founders felt, and we're just supposed to interpret the Constitution as it's written. Conservative justices say that, liberal justices say that. Really, they're just trying to hide what their own politics are, because look, no matter how above the fray you try to be, in your interpretation of the law, your politics are going to come through. So if you're liberal, you might put more of an emphasis on the general welfare clause of the Constitution, which says that the federal government can act in the general welfare of the population. If you're on the right, you tend to dismiss the general welfare clause and you focus more on the states' rights portion. So if Biden picks somebody who's half decent and they play hide the ball enough on what their beliefs are, which they probably will, then you probably will get even Manchin and Sinema to vote for the justice, in which case the 6-3 deficit for the left, for liberals, will be maintained. So it's definitely good news he's retiring, because guess what? If he didn't, it's likely Republicans win next. If Republicans win, then it would be a 7-2 majority. So now we'll just have to wait and see how feckless and weak the Democrats are, and how long it takes for them to get a justice through, and how good the justice is that Biden picks. I mean, that's probably the biggest impediment. Other than Manchin and Sinema, the biggest impediment would be, who the hell is Biden going to pick? Is he going to pick somebody who's actually going to be on the left? And the other thing is, oftentimes, this happens with Supreme Court justices, where you'll think they're one thing, and then they get on the court, and they're actually not. And it's actually cut in both directions. I think there's been times where somebody was picked nominally because they're more conservative, and they ended up acting in a more liberal way on the court. So there's a lot of question marks, but the fact of the matter is, no matter how you slice it or dice it, it's definitely a positive thing that Breyer is retiring. In fact, people were right to be really angry at Ruth Bader Ginsburg for not retiring under Barack Obama. And honestly, Breyer should have retired under Barack Obama too, because she didn't do that. She was rolling dice with the country, and as a result of that, she died in the Trump years, and Trump was able to replace her. So, look, say whatever you want about her record on the court, but the fact of the matter is, that does a tremendous amount of damage, and it stems from this notion that your own personal fulfillment is somehow more important than the well-being of the country in the long run. And obviously that's not something I believe in. That's not something I agree with. And that's something they should have been more honorable and had more integrity and realized, like, look, these issues are more important than me. So I'll step down because we need to replace me with somebody who thinks in a similar way. So, and by the way, these liberal justices aren't that great either. Unfortunately, way too large a percentage of the time they agree with corporate rule in America. So they're better on social issues, but only like maybe half the time or 30% of the time or whatever, they're better on corporate issues. So it's always better to have a centrist judge than a right-wing judge. It's better to have a liberal judge than a centrist judge. It's better to have a leftist judge than a liberal judge. That's all true. Like, there are gradations, but unfortunately, it's always lackluster from the Democratic Party because that's how they function. That's how they act. The new Democrat Party is very corporate in nature, as you all know. But either way, no matter how you slice it or dice it, it's a win that he's stepping down and Biden's going to get to replace his successor. And the saddest part is it's still going to be a 6-3 deficit no matter what. So it's sort of like the weakest celebration of all time, but it is still, to one extent or another, a celebration because you'd definitely rather have Joe Biden pick the replacement for Breyer than whichever ghoul Republican, maybe Trump, maybe DeSantis, whoever in 2024 would end up picking Breyer's replacement. So there you have it, some big news, and we'll see what happens from here.